The iPad Pro might have stolen the show when it was announced at the Let Loose event, but the iPad that's probably the best option for most people, it's this one right here. This is the brand new iPad Air for 2024, and in this video I'm going to go over what's new and why I think it's the best iPad for most folks out there. Now the biggest change is probably pretty noticeable in that this year we have two models, an 11-inch and a 13-inch. You finally don't need to go Pro to get the bigger size, which is great for those who just wanted a bigger iPad and don't need all of the Pro features. And that does come at a price point. And so now the new M2 11-inch starts at $599 and the 13-inch starts at $799, which is about $400 to $500 cheaper than its Pro counterparts. Now I'm a big fan of the larger form factor, especially when you pair it with the Magic Keyboard. And now unfortunately you can't use the new Magic Keyboard that Apple just released. That one's only compatible with the new iPad Pro, but the previous version, that's still a really good option, fits the 11 and 13-inch Air with no problem. So for me personally, I think any 13-inch tablet will require you to dock it on some sort of keyboard case. I think just using it for long periods of time in your hand is going to be kind of annoying. I don't know how people do it. If you do it, let me know, but I almost exclusively keep mine docked on a keyboard. And you don't have to get the Magic Keyboard, though it is my personal favorite, and I think it just works really well. I'm always a big fan of first-party accessories, but there are plenty of other third-party accessories out there, and so you can find a cheaper one, but I just recommend getting a keyboard if you go for this 13-inch model. Now, another new feature is the front-facing camera. On the last generation, you had it up here. So when you had it in portrait mode, you could FaceTime, but who's holding it like this? You're usually docking it somewhere and you're probably gonna turn it in landscape, but that means you're looking off to the side. And now, just like the iPad Pro, this has been moved to the top here in landscape orientation. This is huge for those who take a lot of FaceTime calls, especially when your iPad is docked on a keyboard again. It's the perfect spot. It just makes FaceTime calls look and feel more natural. It's the perfect spot. It's a good camera. Unfortunately, you don't have Face ID. That is a Pro feature, but at the power button here on the top, you still have Touch ID. And so you do have some sort of biometric authentication available. It's just not as convenient as having Face ID. Again, if you want that, you're gonna have to bump up to the Pro. Now, aside from the larger display, it's pretty much the same as it was before. Everything looks and feels the same. It's just bigger. It's not the best display that Apple has to offer in an iPad. Obviously, that award goes to the new Pro with the brand new OLED, the Ultra Retina XDR display, but this is still really, really good. It's more than enough for most people. You do really notice the lack of ProMotion, but that was probably just because I was working exclusively on the new iPad Pro, and then I opened this up immediately and started using this and setting it up, and yeah, I mean, you notice it, but if you're a normal person out there who doesn't have both and you're not jumping back and forth, this display is going to be fantastic. It's a great display, all things considered. Now, performance, that's all boiled down to the new chip for this year, and now we have the M2. Honestly, this just feels a lot like an M2 iPad Pro, no shock there. And I loved my M2 iPad Pro. I used it whenever I was traveling around, and I think I could get 95% of my tasks done. I've never once noticed any lag or hiccups. You get the occasional app that crashes or whatever, but that happens all the time on your phone and whatever. You just kind of reopen and everything's fine, but no problems when working and doing even editing. I edited a couple of videos the other week on my M2 iPad Pro, and it was fluid and just smooth and everything was perfect. So again, I expect that same great performance with the M2 iPad Air since it's basically the same chip that was in the iPad Pro. Now, if you're somebody who likes to illustrate or take a lot of notes on the iPad, you do have two options for a stylus from Apple. You have the USB-C Apple Pencil for $79 or the new Apple Pencil Pro. It's actually compatible with the Air for $129. And so you do get the Pro features on the iPad Air with the Apple Pencil. You get the new squeeze gesture, get haptic feedback, and new Find My integration. So the choice is easy in my opinion. If you're a designer, illustrator, you need the more advanced Apple Pencil features, go with the Apple Pencil Pro. But if you're just taking notes and maybe doing some light coloring or drawing, letting your kids do all that stuff, the USB-C Apple Pencil will be just fine. Unfortunately, though, you won't get the dock and pair with the USB-C Apple Pencil. You'll have to use a USB-C cord, obviously. But if you do get the Pencil Pro, then it can dock right up here, it can pair, and it can charge. So just another couple of limitations between the two. Not a huge deal to use the cord, but that means you have to carry a cable, so something to keep in mind. This new M2 iPad Air also comes in a few new colors, although they kind of just all look like slightly different shades of gray. You get like bluish gray, purple gray. This is Starlight, which just looks like gray to me. And then there's black. My Air here is Starlight again. The colors are kind of boring and dull, but hey, it is what it is. You can also pick up a new Air for $599, again, as I mentioned before, for the 11, and $799 for the 13. And the storage starts at 128 gigs, and you can bump it all the way up to a terabyte if you want to. And now, why do I think this is the best iPad for most people out there who want to use an iPad as kind of a computer replacement? Well, again, I would personally go 13-inch, get a keyboard of some sort. I do highly recommend the Magic Keyboard. I really do like it. I just think you can get almost all the things that you need to get done on an iPad. And I think having a bigger iPad makes it a little easier for some of you out there. Maybe your parents need a bigger screen. Maybe you need a bigger screen. Sometimes you just don't want to do things on your iPhone. You want to get some spreadsheets, type up some emails, browse the web, get a little bit more functionality with Stage Manager, hook it up to a larger display if you need to. The M2, obviously that chip will help with Stage Manager and the external display support. And so I just think you can get a lot done with this. And so personally, I think the M2 iPad Air is kind of that perfect middle ground between having the power and capability to handle all of the pro tasks and things that you might need to get done, and also is still semi-affordable. But it's also still semi-affordable depending on which model you get. $799 for this larger screen is worth it, in my opinion, if you're traveling around and you want to use this as a content creation and content consumption device. The 11-inch, we are used to that. We've had one in the past. It's still very good. And so you've got those two options available. And I personally really like this. And I think this would be the iPad that I would get if I had to spend my own money personally on it. If I wasn't doing this job, I would be getting the M2 iPad Air in the 13-inch config. But I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think about these new iPads? Which one are you thinking about getting? Or maybe you're just waiting for iPad OS to decide whether the AI features are worth it or not. Let me know in the comments down below. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.